So the new Superman movie has a strong, bald antagonist and a really good boy. Let's talk about the new movie now. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watcher Pass. I'm here to talk about Superman, James Gunn's Superman, the new Superman movie. It comes to theaters on July 11th, 2025. It is written and directed by James Gunn. It is a kind of new vision of Superman. But is this, I don't even know what movie in the Superman series it would be. Is this movie worth your time? Is it worth watching? My hot take is I definitely think you should watch it. I really liked it. I thought it was really, really good. It's kind of an emotional superhero movie, which DC has tended to do with Superman. They tried to make it kind of more serious, more emotional, more like internal conflict-y, but I really liked it. I thought it was a really good kind of emotional movie that mixes great effects, some humor, lots of good humor, a focus on like current political events and geopolitical issues, and a very, very good boy. So I definitely think you should check it out. I really enjoyed it. It's a little bit long, so just get ready. It's 2 hours and 10 minutes, but I really thought it was good. You might also be wondering, hey, it's a Superman movie. Should I take my kids? I Older kids maybe I don't it's obviously it's PG-13 so it's not meant for kids and it definitely is not meant for kids. It has some humor, it has a dog that they might like, but it does have some violence, some kind of intense scenes. It has depictions of war, not super violent, but scary, and it has some moments of somewhat shocking violence. So older kids probably okay, but I would be careful taking your kids. It's not really a kids movie. It is not like a terrible movie. It's not super gory, but it does have some pretty intense moments and some serious issues. And you might be wondering, hey, I watched this. Should I stay for the end? Are there stingers? Yes, there are stingers. There's a mid-credit scene and a stinger at the end. The mid-credit scene, definitely worth it. Stinger at the end, it's entertaining. It's got characters that you like, so I would stay for it. It's not super necessary. It doesn't kind of advance the story, but it is a fun scene nonetheless. So there you go. All that being said, I'm going to tell you about the film, a few things I like, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into a recap. So as you can imagine, there will be spoilers in the recap section. If you don't know what happens in this movie, and you might not, there are some surprises along the way. I would turn it off when I get to the recap. Before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free. I'll let you know when I get to those spoilers. So in Superman, you have Superman dealing with a kind of like new threat, one that he is not ready for, both, an enemy, but also public opinion that he is not used to facing. Is he going to be able to overcome this while seemingly being attacked from all sides? Well, you have to watch the movie to find out. So, things I liked about this movie. The first, Crypto. Crypto's great. Crypto the dog is in this. He is wonderful. He's a good boy. He is a misbehaved boy, but he is a wonderful, wonderful boy. It's is lovely to see. There's some really funny scenes. If you like dogs, if you're a dog owner, you will definitely enjoy those moments. Second thing I love the effects. Really great effects. It's superhero movies. You're gonna have superpowers, flying, destruction, and it all looks fantastic. Warner and DC pulled out all the stops for this movie, and it looks amazing. Third thing I love the music. It has kind of like that epic Superman feel that you get from a Superman movie, kind of larger than life scores. There's some relatively quiet moments, but also it has some like nice twists, some like interesting music choices to set the tone, but also to kind of like introduce a little bit of levity in some of the combat scenes. Uh, Puts me right perfectly in the next point. The fourth thing I love the humor. It has really funny moments. It has a nice kind of mix of serious moments, very emotional moments, and some very funny kind of like asides and things that happen. The fifth thing I loved, it has some modern topics, which I liked. It feels like it deals with like modern issues, current political issues, things that you might see in the news right now. It feels like this was a movie that is kind of looking to kind of mix that in with kind of like a superhero mentality. And that brings me to the last thing I love. I love that it was like a mix of superheroes and real world problems. Like, what happens if a superhero goes and influences world events, influences geopolitical things like that? It is interesting to see kind of like that intersection between like politics and superheroes. Might not be for everyone, but I enjoyed it. So all that being said, things I didn't love as much. It's a little bit long. It wasn't really a major critique, but it's just something to keep in mind. It is 2 hours and 10 minutes. Doesn't really feel like it drags. Doesn't really feel like it kind of overstays its welcome, but it is a long movie, so just be ready for that. And the second thing I didn't love, kind of a double-edged sword with the fact that it deals with like modern-ish topics and a mix of superheroes and real-world problems. What's the longevity gonna be like? Is this a movie you're gonna watch again and again? I'm not sure. It might become dated in a few years, but it might also stay relevant because it seems like the more society changes, the more it stays the same. So All that being said, Superman comes to theaters on July 11th, 2025. Definitely check it out. I enjoyed it a lot. I think it's a really good movie. I think it's an entertaining movie. And it's a movie you kind of want to see in theaters for those big effects, those big scenes. So, if you do see it, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I would love to hear it. I'm going to really quickly go into a recap right now. So if you don't know what happens in this movie, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So Superman starts with kind of like a little timeline. I think 300 years ago, metahumans were kind of like discovered on Earth. 30 years ago, Superman came here. 3 years ago, he went public with his Superman persona. 3 hours ago, he got into a fight with a metahuman called the Hammer of Baravia. And 3 minutes ago, for the first time in his life, he lost a fight. And we see Superman getting kind of like crashing into the Arctic where his base is. But we also find out some further backstory. So recently, Superman stopped a war from happening between Baravia, which is a U.S. ally, and a neighboring nation of Jaunpur. He ultimately saved lives, but he got into some political heat because he was interfering with like geopolitics without the request or permission of any government. He didn't have a request from the president of the United States. He didn't have a request from any sort of like United Nations. He just kind of went in and said, "I'm going to stop this. I'm going to save lives." Good decision, right? But as you can imagine, nations might get uncomfortable with a unknown agent of superpowers. So this was an avenue for Lex Luthor to start trying to like ingratiate himself with the government, try to like sell his own brand of superpower justice, and also try to peel away some of the Superman veneer. Now, like I said, this starts with Superman kind of like crashing into the Arctic. He is clearly beat up. He is clearly hurt. He goes to the Fortress of Solitude thanks to Crypto the dog. Crypto the dog drags him to the Fortress of Solitude, and there he gets revived to get back in the fight. And while this is happening, we find out that the Hammer of Bravia is funded by Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor has a kind of like entire control room that is helping it fight, helping him to like decide what to do against Superman, and that is part of the reason why the Hammer of Bravia is able to fight him. Now, we also find out that a metahuman named the Engineer was tracking Superman and tracked him to his base, his Arctic base. And after this happens, after the metahuman finds the base, after the Hammer Baravia fights Superman, later Lex Luthor comes back with the Engineer and Ultraman, which is the person that was I think behind the person that was in the Hammer Baravia. The Hammer Baravia had like a juggernaut kind of metal suit or like a I don't know like a clunky Iron Man kind of suit, but the person in there was this character named Ultraman. The Engineer and Ultraman go to take out Superman's base. Now, Superman's not there. He's distracted because earlier Lex released like a giant frog monster salamander thing that is now attacking Metropolis. Superman goes to help fight that, but he gets a little bit of help from the Justice Gang, including the Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, and Mr. Terrific. So while they are dealing with this, Lex attacks Superman's base. He does this to try to get dirt on him to try to figure out how to take him down. While he's in there, he uses the Engineer to hack into Superman's system and finds a message from his parents. His parents from Krypton. And Superman only had half the message. It was like, we love you. We love you more than the stars, blah, blah, blah. Go to Earth, do good, essentially. It was something along those lines. But that message had been corrupted in the flight from space, and the Engineer was able to reconstruct that message. And so the rest of the message basically says, like, these humans are simple. You are going to be more powerful than them. Make sure to, like, rule over them and quash anyone that stops you, and then also like make sure to spread the Krypton genes. You're the last son of Krypton, so have a harem to spread sow your oats essentially. Not the message that Superman had thought it was. He thought it was a message of hope, a message of like serve these humans, help protect them, save them. That's what he had been living his life from. Now, when this new message comes out, it kind of like changes how he views that message from his parents. And now that Lex has this message, he goes on a social media blitz to talk about it, to talk about how Superman is there to like trick people, to subjugate Earth, all that stuff. Now, Superman feels the anger, that the slow turning tide of public opinion, but also he is kind of blindsided by this message. Like this message he had been living his entire life is now changed, and so this just causes him to kind of like spiral a little bit. He eventually decides to turn himself in because the government is nervous about his like other intentions, things like that. So he decides to turn himself in, try to like quell some fears. But when that happens, uh, he is handed over to Luther for holding, who takes him to this like old abandoned army base where they have set up this like theoretically this holding area, but that actually is a kind of front. They use a portal to take Superman to this pocket dimension that Luther had created. And here is where kind of Luther has created like a little separate special place for himself that he can use to go between places. It's got like portals that can go into this pocket dimension so he can go between places on Earth. But also, in this pocket dimension, he holds some of his enemies, including some ex girlfriends that he has, some minor enemies he's made, his like social media apparatus, which is like 1,000 monkeys typing on keyboards, like rage baiting essentially. I like that. It was kind of fun to see these like monkeys typing horrible tweets and things like that. And now he also has Superman. So Lex wants to interrogate him, wants to like get more information, and he uses a metahuman called the Elemental that can recreate any substance. And so Lex has him create kryptonite. Meanwhile, Lois is wondering what happened to Superman, so she's trying to track him down. She asks, was wondering where he is. Jimmy apparently has a source, and that source tells him where Superman is. It's a pocket dimension. Now, Jimmy's source is Lex's girlfriend, who is obsessed with him for some reason. Like, look, Jimmy, Skyler Gisondo, lovely man, great, has a look about him, seems cool. I'm sure he's very funny. Lex's girlfriend is like, very attractive, is with a kind of fabulously rich person. She is obsessed with Jimmy though. And so, and Jimmy seems nice. He's like 5'9", she's like 5'11", but I guess, height doesn't matter. So she is obsessed with him. And she tells him where Superman is. So Lois goes to the Justice Gang to try to help get Superman out of this pocket dimension, but only Mr. Terrific goes to help. Now, they go to the base where Superman was taken and break into the pocket dimension. Meanwhile, Lex is trying to get info out of Superman, and so he kidnaps someone he knew. I think the person's name was Molly. It was like a vendor in New York that kind of like had given Superman food one time. And so he brings him to this pocket dimension and like tells Superman to give him information and plays Russian roulette with Molly. And like the second trigger pull, Molly gets shot in the head. You don't see it's not like super violent, but it was a kind of shocking moment. Didn't expect that. Superman is devastated by this, but so is the Elemental as well. Lex says, "I'll be back tomorrow with more questions and someone else that you know." So the Elemental doesn't like this, decides to help free Superman. He stops the kryptonite. He like creates a kind of like mini sun that powers Superman up. He's able to escape from the prison. He's able to save the elemental sun, who was being held, but he gets attacked by guards. And so a fight ensues, and eventually Superman wins with the help of Crypto, who he saves. Crypto is also being held in this pocket dimension, and the elemental. Meanwhile, Mr. Terrific has like located him, opened this portal, and has used his kind of like drones to figure out where Superman is. He leads him back to the portal out of the pocket dimension, and they make it out just before the portal collapses. And Lois takes Superman to his parents' farm to recover because he is still very much hurt from this pocket dimension. He has kryptonite poisoning, so he's got to go recover a little bit. Now, once Lex finds out that Superman escapes, he is pissed. And so he yells at everyone, he breaks stuff, he throws something at Eve, his girlfriend, who then takes this as a big affront and decides to send Jimmy information he's requested, information about Lex. And she has been taking selfies the entire time, seemingly like, just a social media obsessed person. But those selfies had very important information. Each selfie had like a piece of Lex's plan. So she sends all of these to Jimmy just before Lex figures out what she's doing and takes her to the pocket dimension. So Lex wants to get Superman out, and so he decides to open a rift that's going to cause destruction to draw Superman out. Superman is recovering with his parents. He gets some advice from them. He gets some advice from his parents to kind of like help him mentally. But meanwhile, Baravia is getting ready to invade Jaunpur again. So Superman wants to stop this, but a rift is opening that's going to threaten Metropolis, so he has to go help there. Superman goes to help Metropolis with Mr. Terrific, tries to save people, and while this is happening, the Justice Gang shows up to help the Jaunpurians. Lois and the Daily Planet use the images that Jimmy has sent to kind of like decipher what Lex's plan is, and they post an article that details Lex's master plan. Now, basically, Lex had been giving weapons to the Baravians to start a war. Lex had like access to large amounts of weapons. He basically been giving them to the Baravian military to start this war, and in exchange, Lex would get half of Jaunpur, which would then create a new kind of state called Luthoria. This would be his own place. He would be the king of it, and he wanted to create like a tech utopia from this. Now, while this is happening, uh, Superman is trying to help people, trying to save Metropolis while this rift is opening up and kind of like destroying the city. And while he's doing this, Ultraman then shows up to attack Superman. Ultraman and the engineer come. They're coming to attack Superman while he is weak, while he is down, and they eventually fill his lungs with nanobot. The engineer's power is that the engineer can like use nanobots to shape anything, and so the engineer fills Superman's lungs with nanobots to try to like suffocate him. Now, Superman breaks this by flying into space, and they think, oh, like eventually the nanobots will work. But after he gets into space, he comes crashing down, and the engineer and Ultraman are on him to try to stop him. He comes crashing down to Earth. That causes, Ultraman to get hurt. That causes the engineer to pass out, and that causes the like nanobots to break up enough that Superman can pull them out, and he's fine. Now, when Ultraman crashed down to Earth, his mask was broken, and we find out who Ultraman is. It is a clone of Superman created by Lex. That is why Ultraman was able to like. That is why Lex was able to open the Fortress of Solitude, even though that was DNA kind of coded. Lex had created a clone of Superman, and so that was how he was able to get in there. Um, Ultraman though is not a perfect clone. It's not can't think very well. That's why Lex had to create this whole like set up this whole control center essentially to help Ultraman fight. And so Ultraman and Superman fight, but now Superman decides to like get rid of some of Lex's advantage. He uses crypto to get rid of drones that are watching him, so Lex can't really coordinate the fight. Superman and Ultraman fight, and eventually Superman throws Ultraman into a black hole that is forming because of this rift that is swallowing Metropolis. So after all this, Superman goes to Lex's like control tower to confront him, and that's when Lex tells him that he didn't try to kill Superman so that he could then start this war and create Lithoria. He started this war to give him an excuse to kill Superman. So he wants to kill Superman. I guess he doesn't like that Superman gets all the glory, and also that Superman isn't, I don't know, as smart as him, I guess. I didn't really get the reasoning for why Lex hates Superman so much, but in any event, he started this war so he would have an excuse to like kill Superman. But as this is happening, the news story that the Daily Planet writes breaks, and Luthor is disgraced. He, the truth comes out that Luthor is like a traitor. He's working with a Baravian government to try to overtake a neighboring nation. All of that stuff. Mr. Terrific shows up and helps to stop the rift. They have to like enter the kill code into the computers, which will then stop the rift from happening. They're able to do that. And also, meanwhile, with this story, the tide has turned back to Superman, and now everyone supports him again. The tide turned very quickly, which I kind of liked. I liked the kind of like unrelenting pressure of social media, kind of like the speed at which people can go from like heroes to villains. I thought that was interesting. And now the tide has turned towards Superman. Everyone loves him. Everyone hates Lex Luthor, and so Superman has prevailed. Lex is taken away. The prisoners in his pocket dimension are freed, and Superman saves the day. Now, afterwards, Superman and Lois go for a private interview where, uh, you know, they they get to like a secluded part of the mall. They kiss. It's really cute. And Lois says that she loves Superman too. Earlier, Superman had said that he loved her after they've been dating for 3 months. A little early, dude. Wait a little bit, make sure that this is right. But I guess it worked out because now she has said it again, and they seem very happy. So after all of this, we see a scene where Superman is in his rebuilt Fortress of Solitude, and Supergirl, his cousin, shows up after partying on a red sun planet and gets her dog back, gets Crypto back. Crypto's a little bit misbehaved throughout. We find out why. Supergirl hasn't really trained him that much, but it is also a sweet scene to see Crypto so happy to see Supergirl. And after this, she takes Crypto back, and Superman takes a well-deserved rest to recover, and he asks for footage of his parents. And now we see pictures of his like Kansas family. Before, footage of his parents was that message from his parents from Krypton that he would play over and over again to help soothe them. Now he is seeing his like Kansas family. It is very sweet. It is very endearing. And that is Superman. Like I said, there is also a mid-credit scene. Partway through the credits, we see Superman and Krypto on the moon, just kind of like looking at Earth. It is a sweet scene because hey, it's Superman and a dog. What can you not like? And then there is a stinger at the very end. After all the credits, there is a stinger. We see Superman and Mr. Terrific. They are looking at a building that was torn apart by the rift, and Superman mentions that it's a little bit off. Like there was a crack through the building. It came back together, but just a little bit off, maybe like 2 inches off. And Mr. Terrific gets mad at him. And Superman's like, oops, sorry, I shouldn't have opened my mouth. So that is Superman. Like I said, definitely check it out. If you do see it, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked, didn't like. I'd love to hear it. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, Please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.